Hi everybody and welcome to Indigo Sky Holistic. I should adjust my camera before I start recording, but I'm dropping just some thoughts and feelings that have come up over a couple of things that I've been experiencing, making just a couple of videos on a couple of subjects. This one, kind of not sure which channel to put it on. I might actually I'll be sharing links to it on all three of my channels, but yeah, it's kind of, there's relevances to all three of my scopes for content creation here, but I'm putting on this one because it brought up some like emotional stuff that is relevant for anyone who's on a holistic healing journey. It was quite powerful when it came to me, but a lot of the stories that surfaced for me were related to my upbringing as a child, and particularly as a child in a religious structure, where physical punishment was the norm, and the hold that fear of God had over me, but I think I'll link it on that channel. And then it's relevant, it's about like childhood stuff, so it's relevant to my other channel, which is all about home education and self-directed learning, unschooling. So I'll get to the point. Hi everybody, I'm Davina. I'm an intuitive energy healer, holistic therapist, and a home educating mum of 3. And what I'm talking about today is supporting children, young little ones specifically sort of preteen, but probably in relation to my own childhood, like really little ones, but how that when we support little ones in expressing themselves from an energetics point of view and a more nurturing, conscious point of view, it has an impact on them as they age towards the preteen years, the tween years, and then on to puberty and teenagers. One of my friends yesterday shared a video of her autistic son. They were out for a meal and he was just being happy and joyful, and I was watching what he was doing, how he's behaving, which was like, he was excited. He's similar age to my youngest daughter, she's 10, and he was fidgeting, he was up, he was out of his seat, he was walking around, he was moving around his chair, he was eating, and it was like there was just this energy about him. And I was observing, and it hit me really hard, because I was like that as a little girl, like really little, like before that age. I could never sit still, full of energy, constantly moving around, fidgeting, moving, couldn't sit still, being expected to sit still, quiet religious meetings. And it sort of hit me, because clearly he's not being squashed in his energetic state, even while they were out for a meal. And similarly, this is what I've done with my girls when we've been out in public, as hard as it sometimes is because of the tuts and the frowns and the judgment from other people, that children should be still seen and not heard, or made to be sit still, and like if they're not sitting still, you need to beat the shit out of them so that they sit still out of fear. And so that, for me, that was what happened when I was in these religious meetings and I was moving, jumping up and down, not sitting still. Clearly now understanding from an energetics point of view that it was that I had this energy running through me that I couldn't understand on a conscious level, because I was little. We're talking really little here, preschool age, sort of 3, 4, and on up to like 5, 6, 7, I was still being, if I moved too much in a meeting, I would be slapped and made to sit still. At the age of like 5 or 6, I was still like, I'd get up and go. I'd get up and go to the toilet as a reason to get up and move. Share more of that, I think, on my channel that's more aimed at ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's relevant really to how that impacts when you're raised in that religious structure or any sort of controlling way that children shouldn't be moving, that it's not normal for children to have this energy about them. We have this energy about us which is so suppressed from childhood that then we get to more mature ages and we're like, I'm moving, we don't know how to move, we're very nervous, we have to drink alcohol to dance type of thing. And that's because oftentimes it's been squashed out of us from a very young age, because when we're in school, if we're in church, if you're even just in a family home, or like this experience, like going out into public to meals. I know lots of people with children who they identify as being on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, those parents are scared to take their children out into public because they're energetic, because they can't sit still. And there's nothing wrong with the children. There's nothing wrong with the children who cannot sit still. There's something wrong with the system that says they have to, and that creates environments where children moving around is frowned upon or not accepted. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that if you're going out for a meal and you want to be in a quiet place, maybe you're going out for a romantic meal, yeah, you don't want children bouncing around and off the walls while you're doing that. There should be a space for both types of thing to be normal. Because yeah, if you're going out for a nice romantic meal, you want the space for that to be. There should be restaurants, and I'm not actually saying either that children should be banned from those places. But as a mum who's raised three daughters in a space where I can teach them what is acceptable, or what is acceptable is not really the right word, where there's times and spaces to sit still and be on a quieter level, even with neuromagical traits, even with energy that needs to move and be seen and expressed. That there's spaces to do that, and spaces where we sit more quiet here, and then we can go outside and you can move around. There's ways to do that consciously without harming the child, without harming the child's emotional state. My girls have never really been to church except for funerals and weddings. Yeah. They've never been made to sit still. They've never been punished for not sitting still, for starters. And yet every single one of them, when we go to an event where we're in a church, it's like that's the prime example of where sitting still and being quiet is expected, particularly for a funeral. And we've done it, I think we've done it with all three of them at points where they've been energetic toddlers, shall we say. And I've never had a problem getting them to sit still in those environments. I've never even had to ask them to. Because they're free to move around. It's almost like, because they're so free to move around and be themselves anywhere, literally, that if we go into that sort of environment and say, like, but this is a space where we're here because, you know, someone has died, we're here because a great grandparent has died, we're here because a grandparent has died, we're here because a more distant relative has died, and was one of the first funerals they went to, my oldest two. we're here, we're expected to just be quiet here. It's not long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just like, if you want anything, then you can. It's like treating them like humans, treating them like they actually have a capacity to grasp what you're asking of them right from a young age. And I've never had a problem with them. And they're all like, they've all got their neuromagical traits. They've all got like reason to be up and bouncing around and climbing and jumping. Probably of all of them, my middle one is the one who would find it easiest to just sit still and listen to something or be still. But even her, like, it wouldn't be unusual for her to start like making little characters with her hands and like playing with her hands, being little people walking around. That was her probably most expressive movement when in places where she was expected to be more quiet and still. So yeah, it really got me watching this video of my friend's little boy, because I just thought, wow, it's actually so, to me, that's so normal. It's such normal child behaviour for even older children, like having teenagers now who are parts of groups that are trying to create spaces that are suitable for teenagers. Like, teenagers need to be free to run around, to run off their energy, particularly if they're made to sit in school for hours and hours of the day. They need spaces to be free and move. And movement is a way of shifting energy. It's a way of clearing energy, particularly if things are stressful, if there's anxiety, if there's social anxiety, if there's social awkwardness, there's changes that are going on with puberty, all of those things. These teenagers need space to move to. And unless it's in some sort of structured sports environment, and girls, like the teenage girls that I know, are not as inclined to be getting up and doing things physically as the teenage boys. Why is that? Like, is it because there's not the support for them to pursue sports in a recreational way, in a kind of fun way? I don't know. I don't have all the answers to this. What I know is fidgeting, moving, like that up and down, that movement that toddlers do, the way that they just cannot sit the hell still. Like, you're out and they're up and they're down and they're moving around and they're running around in circles, and that's just them moving. That's not anything that's broken about that. That's like normal brain function and normal physiological function of the age. It's not actually because there's anything wrong with their brain. It's actually just energetics. It's normal for them. What level of that, what level of movement they have, how much energy they have to run around, like from a human design perspective, if we're taking that into consideration, if they've got a defined sacral center, if they're generating their own energy, they're like MGs and generators, then they've got a lot of energy to move, and they're going to want to move all the time, and then they're going to get labeled as being hyperactive because they're just moving and moving and moving and up and down, and yeah, just like that, they're then labelled as being fidgety, boisterous, moving too much, sit down, shut up. If they're in a really controlling environment, there may be physical restraint practiced to make them be still. I was thinking, what difference could it have made to me if, as a 2, 3, 4-year-old little girl, when I wouldn't sit still, if I'd have been allowed to not sit still, and especially if I'd not been hit because I wouldn't sit still. How much of my energy was repressed in really early childhood and suppressed because I wasn't allowed to move, and what impacts has that then had on me from an energetics point of view, from a mental and emotional point of view, and from like a a physical point of view, that I had to sit still and be quiet and hold myself back from being true to my inner energy flow. And I just thought how amazing that there are more and more parents out there, more and more caregivers out there, more and more mums and dads out there who see that in their little people and allow their children to move and be free and express themselves and find conscious ways to make it, to support their children if they're in an environment where it's maybe a little less acceptable, like a church, like a funeral. Like there's a way to teach respect for other people and situations that doesn't disrespect the child, that doesn't disrespect the small human, the energy of the individual child that is there to be expressed and to be seen and heard. Like, we're all meant to be seen and heard. And you know what my experience has shown me for 16 years of being a mum? Sometimes the younger they are, the more important what they've got to say and do is. Really. I hear so much from listening to little ones, like toddlers, when they're trying to express themselves. And so many people would just think that, you know, they're not actually saying proper words, so what they're saying is irrelevant. No. They know exactly. Just because they can't express themselves in English or whatever language it is that they're learning as a first language doesn't mean that they don't know and can't express. So yeah, that was my little thought that came to me today. So it was an encouragement for you, if you are a mum or a dad or a caregiver of really young little people. There's ways to consciously raise them, teach them, support them, so that they're free to be and express who they are and who they're meant to be. And that's one of the things that I do. It's one of the things that I teach and support, primarily by teaching and supporting us as adults to learn how to express, and then showing ways of how we can do this if we are going to be in places with those toddlers, particularly, and maybe teenagers, so that we can teach them to be respectful of other people's needs, but also totally see and hear those young people, those fresh energy beings who are here to become the next generation of powerful leaders who are going to see a different world, because they deserve better. They deserve better. And all of that can be done without ever physically or mentally or emotionally hurting anybody. They're my thoughts for today. Let me know what you think. Anyway, you're watching this, do drop any comments, any thoughts, any feelings. And if you'd like to reach out for a one-to-one consultation, if any of this resonates with you and you'd like to know how I can support you, you can book a session in the description, through the link in the description. You can just book to have a free chat with me first to discuss what resonates and how you would like to be supported. I have an unschooling life video on my website, which you can purchase access to, or any of my other offerings. And I'll see you soon.